On August 16, 1977, the music stopped. Elvis Presley was 42 years old, and his sudden death sent a shockwave across the planet. But while the man was gone, his presence didn't fade. His records stayed on the charts, his name remained in the headlines, and he became the only artist to ever own the title King of Rock and Roll. It's a level of fame that outlived the person who created it, a mystery of cultural immortality that still hasn't been replicated. To understand this, we have to trace the path back to the beginning of the disruption, an origin story that started not in a palace, but in absolute, inescapable destitution. On January 8, 1935, Elvis was born into the Great Depression. His Mississippi family was desperately poor, with almost no path to a stable future. He grew up in a tiny two-room shack. In this environment, there were no connections, no wealth, and zero economic momentum. Looking at the gap between that Mississippi boy and the global king he became, his life trajectory registers as a staggering statistical anomaly. When he was 11, he received his first guitar. Those 6 strings quickly became more than a hobby. They were his primary way of processing a world that offered him very little else. By the time he walked into Sun Records in 1954, he was ready to test those skills in a professional setting, recording his very first track in a studio built for much safer music. Popular music at the time was polished and predictable. Elvis ignored that mold entirely, blending gospel, country, and blues into a sound that felt raw and dangerously new. He didn't just sound different, he moved differently. His stage presence broke every rule of mid-century decorum, replacing rigid posture with frantic, uninhibited energy. For an audience that had never seen this combination of sound and motion, the reaction was immediate and visceral. This wasn't just a successful first record. It was the birth of a cultural shift, powered by a young man who had nothing to lose by being himself. A relentless string of global hits followed. Heartbreak Hotel, Jailhouse Rock, and Love Me Tender dominated the charts, one after another. He physically changed the way a generation moved. His rhythms sparked a new kind of energetic, rebellious dancing that spread through youth culture like a fever. The result was a level of mass hysteria the entertainment world had never seen. Millions of fans would wait for hours just for a few seconds of his time. He soon expanded into cinema, becoming a high-earning Hollywood movie star and ensuring his face and voice were present in almost every corner of public life. The sheer volume of his success is measured in hundreds of millions of records sold, a footprint that reached nearly every country on Earth. Through this total saturation of music and film, the boy from Tupelo built an entertainment empire that seemed completely untouchable. But maintaining that empire came with a massive psychological cost. The pressure of constant public expectation and a non-stop work schedule became a heavy burden. Living as an icon requires a grueling physical performance, and eventually the demands of the persona led to a systemic physical breakdown. As the myth of the king grew larger, the man behind it grew weaker. His health deteriorated in direct proportion to the growth of his fame. The same machinery that made him immortal was also destroying him from the inside. In the end, his early death wasn't just a tragedy. It was an inevitable result of the life he was forced to lead. When he finally fell in 1977, his mortal body gave up, but his art didn't miss a beat. His home at Graceland and his vast library of recordings transitioned instantly into global monuments, attracting millions of visitors and listeners every single year. His life remains the ultimate example of what talent and drive can achieve, proving that a person can start with nothing and still capture the attention of the world. The weight of that crown eventually broke the man, but the sounds he created and the boundaries he crossed ensured that decades after his final performance, no one else has ever been called the king.